Every great pitch tells a story. Some inspire millions and others crash and burn in just a few seconds. This is where we take the greatest and the worst pitches in the world and we break them down moment by moment to uncover what makes the best communicators win while others don't even stand a chance to begin with. So this show exists to help you speak and communicate just like the best in the world. Now, before we begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel and turn on those post notifications so you too can become a great communicator. And while you're there, you can check out the link in the description for the free 7 Hidden Habits email course, where every single day for 7 days, I will send you an email talking about one habit that you might not know you have and how to break them fast. Now today, we're going to be reacting to Reggae Sauce, and in my opinion, the greatest pitch in the history of Dragon's Den. And I wanted to share this with you guys because I think there's a lot of beautiful moments and some really cool things we could learn from this pitch. And so I'm really excited to break it down and watch it along with you guys and take away some of the best parts of this pitch so you can learn how to apply it for yourself. And without further ado, no more yapping, let's get into the video.
Levi Roots was one
Turn the
entrepreneur who
volume up.
proved the rule that even the dragons can be wooed with charm and charisma. He came to the Den in February 2007, looking for an investment of £50,000 for his Caribbean cooking accompaniment, Reggae Sauce.
Put some music in my food for me.
What a way to
And
start.
give me some reggae sauce. At reggae sauce.
When you think of charisma and personality, there could only be one name. Theopophetus. No. There could only be one name. Levi Roots.
It's so nice, I had to name it twice.
When he came on playing that guitar with that fantastic hair, fantastic voice, fantastic song, he had everyone's attention.
At reggae sauce.
He's the first person that's come into the Den that's actually made a pitch all around music. You got to know about his product with one song.
So nice with your fried chicken. Make burgers finger licking.
He was so instantly likable, you rooted for him. I didn't intend that. That was quite an unexpected coincidence.
Put some reggae sauce on your list. Thank you. As a Jamaican, you make a song and dance about everything. Music and food goes together. I had the song in my heart. I'm gonna have something that when the dragons see this, they're not gonna know what's hit them.
Levi, immediately, he captured your attention. Better than any sophisticated business spreadsheet would do. But fundamentally, the product has to be good.
For 50.
The first thing I want to talk about is just how unique his approach was. He literally walked on there and sang a song for about maybe 3 or 4 minutes, depending. Obviously, they cut this in the edit for the show. But it's a good example of how being creative and being unique with the way that we make people care is really, really more powerful than just standing up and trying to use a spreadsheet or use, hi, my name is so-and-so from here, and today I want to talk to you about, because that's kind of what they expect. So you really get to break that pattern and you get people to be a bit more curious when you take an alternative approach. And this makes you look a lot more authentic. You can see how he's tapped into his culture. He says that for Jamaicans, there's a strong connection between music and food and celebration. And that's the story he's trying to tell. He told a story through the medium of a song. And through listening to the song, you learned about him, you learned about his product, and you learned about what he stands for. And that's extremely powerful and it's entertaining. So there's a lot of different angles that you can sort of layer into this to make your reason to care and your introduction really, really unique. And I think the biggest problem is that a lot of us get caught in this thing of playing a character when we get on stage or when we're about to present. And that's the thing that I really, really don't like. And I think it holds us back is, oh, hi, good day, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is so-and-so from this. And we sort of play this character, which we know is not ourselves. So here he's being fully authentic. He's being himself. And he's also using his own personality to drive his reason to care. And that's something we can all learn from. It doesn't necessarily have to be a song, but it's the way that we tell that story. And telling a story is just more effective, and it's going to do more for getting people to care. And you're going to see how this introduction and the way he's presenting himself is going to have massive payoffs throughout the rest of the pitch. And that's what's pretty interesting. So yeah,
15 years we've been marketing the sauce at the Notting Hill Carnival. I've got a very nice order from a meat company in Yorkshire for, wait for it, 2.5 million litres of reggae sauce as their
2.5
first
million.
orders. We've had just like a shook hands on a deal. I've had a nice letter from them, which I have with me. Now, all we have to do now is just try and get production up to standard. Any questions, please?
He's also done something really interesting here that I want to point out and I want to break down. So when we go from making people care about what we're talking about, he knew his audience well enough to deliver a song and to know that it was going to be so authentic and so different that it's going to get them on board. Once you have someone that's giving you their curiosity and saying, okay, show me what's next, you have to give them a really solid reason to believe in you, believe in what you're saying, and to essentially follow you on that journey, because you're asking them to trust you, right? So how do we do that? A lot of the time we tend to naturally gravitate towards accolades. This is who we've worked with, this is the kind of work we've done, this is how many awards we've won, whatever it is. We try to appeal to authority with like the wrong metrics in a way. It's almost like you're using vanity metrics, whereas you could use a story or a transformation or something very specific that communicates that authority for you. So in this case, he says we have 2.5 million liters that we've agreed upon to send to this client, to ship to them, to sell, and I've printed the agreement, and I can show you that here. Often when we're pitching an idea or a business and we want to appeal to authority, we can use something else to do that for us. In this case, showing someone that someone else has bought and paid for what you're offering and showing the transformation and the results of that is way more powerful than talking about the impressive brands or the clients or however much money you made. It just tells a better story. So he's leveraging the fact that someone else has already put their faith in him, and that's communicating his authority for him. It's another way of approaching social proof. Similarly, if you're trying to get clients, another way to circumvent this, we look at like testimonials and reviews and those sorts of things. And while I do think it has its place and those kind of things are important when we try to communicate, I think it's even more important to give someone something that gives them faith in you. So for example, if you're selling a product, you can say, if you buy our product or a service and you don't like what you received, I will give you a full refund, no questions asked. That for me is a much bigger point of trust that you could give someone, as opposed to this is what the past 10 people said about our services, because testimonials can also, it's not that they don't work, but they can feel disingenuous. Like, you're never really going to write a bad testimonial. I don't think if anyone's ever asked you to write a testimonial, you're probably not going to be honest, and that's the difference. So I'm talking too much. Let's continue with the video.
It's rare for the Dragons to be serenaded for an investment, but will that help Levi Root secure the £50,000 he needs in return for a 20% share in Reggae Sauce? Theo Perfitis wants to know more about the entrepreneur in front of him.
Levi Root, what a great name.
Thanks
Is it
very
your real
much.
name?
No, it's my pseudonym. My real name is Keith. No, I don't see me would have been in 30 years in reggae. Can I introduce Keith?
You've just lost so much credibility. You should have lied to him and said, yeah.
But you have, not if my mother calls me Keith, right? She calls me Levi. I've been knowing that ever since then.
Oh dear, right.
The Dragons seem charmed by Levi, but they're also bemused by his claim to have secured a massive order for his sauce. Duncan Bannatyne has some questions.
Okay, you mentioned a letter you had with
Yeah.
an order for 2.5 million litres.
Yeah,
So have you got the letter with you?
I have indeed.
Well, would you pass that to Theo and let him read it? We'll ask you a few more questions.
Certainly, no problem. And I think Theo must be this handsome guy right in front of me here.
Sold. I like you already.
This is really, really powerful. He's communicating a lot while actually not saying a lot, if that makes sense. That letter, that proof that someone else has done this before is massive. And it's one of the biggest forms of leverage you can use in a pitch or a presentation, is rather create results for someone and then amplify the result of that outcome, amplify the outcome in your marketing and your talks and your presentations. It's just way more powerful.
So you've been selling this for 15 years
Yes.
at the carnival.
Not in the carnival, yes.
So how many bottles did you sell last year?
2,500.
2,500 bottles at the carnival. And approximately how much per bottle?
149.
So about £4,000 turnover or something.
Yeah. The sauce actually costs 32 pence to make each bottle of this size.
Where do you make it? How do you make it? Do you make it in your kitchen or
Yes,
a
at the
plant, or-
moment I make it at home in my kitchen, and my children help me, and we just sort of do it as a family there. It's a very small kitchen. We can't do a very large amount at the moment.
Can you legally make things like that in your kitchen and go out and sell them nationwide?
Absolutely, because we've had a letter and a confirmation from
That's
the
a
food
fantastic
standard,
question.
Okay.
which was one of the first things that I did.
Have you
So, interesting thing on this is, especially when it comes to objections, when we pitch, it can be very daunting to have to deal with all of these objections. How much did you make? And we sort of know that these things are coming. So another tip, and what I sort of would have done differently in this situation, is look at the patterns, right? If you watch Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, you will notice that after a majority of the pitches, they ask the same 3 or 4 questions. How much did you make last year? How much of X did you sell? And they try to dig into that. So what I often suggest people would do is to come up with the like 4 or 5 of the strongest objections that you know is coming. And it really pays to know who you're talking to, so you know what they're going to ask. And you build those objectives into your pitch already. So you kind of objective handling before you even get there. And the reason for this is he's just asked now about how many products you've sold in the last year. If you put that in your pitch and you worked it in through one sentence, which doesn't add that much time to your pitch anyways, you provide an opportunity for that question to be for something else more nuanced that can drive the sale or get someone closer to working with you or whatever it is. So we can use the things that people might object to, or the things that make us look a little bit weaker, and put them in our pitch to bolster that. So for example, let's say I'm selling peanut butter, and we can't use really premium jars because the overheads will be too high. So it doesn't really open properly. It's a struggle. What I would say in my pitch is that because of where we are now as a company, we can't, unfortunately, buy the premium jars that we'd like without inflating our overheads. So while it is quite a pain in the ass to open these jars, and admittedly it is really difficult for the time being until we can upgrade them, we believe in our product so much, and what we make is so good that we believe the struggle is worth it for now until we can upgrade that later. What you're doing there is you're using the disadvantage or the weakness to bolster the strength. So you kind of owning that, and so they can't really bring it up and really bash you for it, because you're already aware of it. So you want to try and build in the strongest objections that you know are going to come. If you know your audience really well, I know they're going to ask me how much I've sold. I know they're going to ask me how much my net profit was for the previous year, what the valuation of the company is. Those are all things you can build into a little section into your pitch. And so because I also know that they're going to be writing down notes, and if I say a number, these dragons are gonna write that down, I can take advantage of that. I can put that in my pitch, so then when the question block does come, I'm not wasting that time answering questions that could have been answered in the pitch already, if that makes sense. So yeah,
spoken to anybody about what it takes to produce the kind of volumes that are going to be needed to
Yes,
fulfill these, and what do you need to do?
What I need to do is to rent a place. I mean, I won't buy or anything like that. I will just rent a premises. And I think the equipment will cost me about 25,000 for all equipment.
You need to spend £25,000 on equipment.
Yeah.
Levi's still sounding confident, but his ambitious plans mean transforming a cottage industry into a mass production line virtually overnight. Theo Perfitis has been studying Levi's paperwork and has some concerns about the order itself.
I might have misunderstood you slightly, because I thought you said that you had an order for 2.5 million litres. That's not what this letter says. This letter says if they were to try and market your product, and if it was as successful as some of the other lines that are in national retailers, that's the sort of level that they would have to produce to make it happen. Is that your understanding?
No. Basically what he's saying to me, says, look, we're ready to make an order. As long as you can supply us with this, this is what we will do.
Right. And they're going to pay you a royalty of 5%?
Of 5%, providing that I can supply him.
With him alone, I mean, he thinks that that will create about 390,000 packs.
Yeah.
You see, with things like this is an example of the questions that you want to set yourself up for in a pitch. I'd rather you dig deeper into what I've said. And the rule that I go by is that it's always better to leave people wanting more than to give them too much. So in this case, these are the kind of questions you want. You want to use your question time to dig into the nuance, because if you put all that nuance into your pitch, it's going to be too long-winded. And as you can see, this pitch overall was quite short, but the way he structured it and the way he organized his information, it was enough for them to care and to believe in what he was selling, for that to just carry him through. So in this sense, it's not about how much you say, but it's the impact of what you say. And because all the little things he did in the short time that he pitched was so powerful, communicated so much, he's opened up these kinds of questions. Whereas with a lot of other candidates that you see on the show, they'd be going back and forth on quite frankly stupid shit that should have just been in the original pitch.
Which will retail at about 1.7 million.
Yeah.
So 5% of that is 85.
85.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'll be
to sing a song.
that would be your royalty.
Yes.
Roughly.
Roughly, yeah.
That'll be, and then you're going to be selling these guys at £6.50 a litre.
Per litre, yeah.
What's that in real money?
I think it's 16 million something. 16.5 million.
16.5
Levi may have
million
appeared more musician than entrepreneur, but it seemed he had an order which would impress any
that's
dragon.
huge.
I went to the Dragons Den that morning thinking that I'm not going to have a business plan. I thought, Levi, you got to be honest with yourself. You got to go as you. So I was well confident with what I had.
The lots of sources are remarkably good, but that on its own isn't enough to actually make you into a success. There's a whole combination of factors: Levi's charisma, charm, personality.
That is important, and I love that for this edit they actually kept in the comments from the Dragons, the charm and charisma and personality. And this is something that I can't stress enough. When we pitch, when we speak, when we deliver content, we need to be authentic. It's a barrier. It's a barrier that you create between you and whoever you're speaking to, an audience, a person, a camera. When you put on a show and you try to speak clearer and you try to use bigger words and be a different person. Imagine if I've delivered a pitch now to these Dragons, and then Peter or Theo asks me to go out with him for a beer. And then suddenly my personality changes. I'm a different person. I tell a lot of jokes. I'm funny. I'm loud. But then when I'm on stage, I'm very serious. I'm monotone. You don't want to create a different person when you're on stage. And the reason for this, and you're going to see in just a moment, we'll expand on that, is authenticity is truly one of the biggest things that you could bring to the table in this kind of situations, along with the stories and the metaphors and the creativity and how we speak. But it's being yourself ultimately that's really gonna sell what you're trying to sell. So yeah,
There's a half decent sauce to it. Give it a shake. Hey presto.
But Richard Farley picked up on a problem with his order, and it looked like Levi's luck was about to run out.
It's something I don't understand. You've got an order for 2,500 kilos. Is that the one you're saying is 2.5 million litres?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's right.
Not 2,500. 250,000, isn't it?
2,500 kilos.
That's
it's a lot less than you think it is.
It
It's
is?
2,500.
Big difference.
The order is for
2,500 kilos.
Well, a kilo is about the same as a litre. If it's water, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So it's not 2.5 million litres. If you've got 2,500 kilos, it's 2,500 litres.
Okay.
And then it says
that comes-
2,500
that's initial
kilos,
requirement, and then a potential every week thereafter of 500 kilos per week.
Which is about 25,000 a year.
Okay.
And you're getting £6 per...
£6.50 per litre.
Right, so it's about £130,000 worth per order, per year. It's not 16 million.
This is an amazing moment, and I'm so glad this happened. If we think about what he said in the beginning, he had signed an order that had 16.5 million pounds worth of revenue from just that deal alone. The clerical error on his part has changed that down to 130,000 pounds a year, which is a massive difference. And in a game like this against the Dragons, they are going to want to invest based on the forecasted performance of what you're pitching, right? But why isn't this as big of a problem as it should be, right? For a lot of people in this situation, imagine if you got called out like this. How are you going to feel, right? You're probably going to get nervous. You're probably going to start to overthink, start to mumble. But there's two ways you can handle a problem like this when there's friction in a talk or a presentation. You must always remember, just like if it's a magic trick, the audience doesn't know what's coming next. So they don't have a preconceived expectation to think that something's fucked. So you can work around that by just moving on. And if you see here, his reaction's amazing. He's just like, okay, there's a clerical error. I accept it, and we move on, because what the fuck else are you going to do? So that's one way you can handle it, is you kind of just have to take it on the chin and keep rolling, keep going, because they don't know what's coming next. So it works in your favor. But then the second half is how does this massive jump in his revenue, potential revenue, not impact his potential to gain an investor here? And it's because of the person. And this is where we go back to authenticity. And there's a little thingy on my face. We go back to authenticity and why you want to be yourself. Because at the end of the day, and we must always remember that people buy from other people. We buy based on how we feel, not what we see and what we read. It's about what we feel. And they're not investing in his business, they're not investing in his product, they're investing in him. And because he is authentic, because he provided an image of himself that is as true to reality as it could be, there is no difference between him there on stage and if you took him out for a beer. They're judging your potential based on the person. And if they think that this guy, regardless now of how much has changed in that potential deal, how much faith can I put in him as a human being to invest and to carry him through business? So they're making that decision based on him, based on his personality, based on who he is. So we always need to remember that when we think about changing our voice and the way we speak on stage and how we structure things, is you need to lean into your personality and your character to really promote yourself and give yourself the best chance of being bought into, because this is what they're investing in, the person. They think that he can make it work alongside them. They don't really know that much about his product. Yes, obviously he sang about it and they tasted it and it's good, but they don't know much more than that. So it's really him that they're investing in. That's why it's so important to be authentic and to tell stories that are authentic to you or relevant to the task at hand in that example. So let's keep going.
Levi made a massive mistake on his numbers. And he wasn't phased at all. He's like, oh, okay, fair enough. And he didn't change a business plan. So He was going to do an order which was 1,000 times smaller than what he thought after I'd explained it to him. But he didn't say, oh, we need less money, or we need a smaller warehouse, or we need smaller quantities. Nothing changed. So you probably admit to me that your business skills probably would need a little bit of help.
He gained respect for acknowledging that and just moving on without it. And a lot of the times when we make a mistake, or there's friction, or there's something that might make us nervous, something that might shake the boat while you're talking, they're not paying as much attention to that as you are, because only you know where your content is going, and that's why you're freaking out. So it's important here to not let these things bother you. You can't be shaken up by these things. And when you do have a problem like this that arises, you just suck it up and you keep moving, because they don't know it's a fuck up. Only you do. And we need to work with that in our advantage. So yeah.
Absolutely, I would say that, yeah.
So I'm just sort of sitting here thinking, do I want to take a gamble, you know?
Can I just cut in to give Richard a bit of time to think about whether he wants to gamble or whether to think about it? Because I know where I'm going with it, and I just want to be clear where I am.
Okay.
So you've got no illusions going forward. I think that trying to get into this market, we know how competitive it is. It's seriously, seriously competitive. To try and range run product is kind of almost impossible. So to let you know where I am, I like impossible challenges. And I've been sitting here for 10 minutes. I can't believe this is the first time ever I've actually started to sweat. And I don't know whether it's the sauce that I've just taken, or actually whether it's what I'm about to say. It is a complete punt, but I kind of probably would enjoy it. I've got a few people in the marketplace that I could introduce you to, but I'd want a little bit more of a slice, but I wouldn't want to take too much away from you, because I think you need to earn a living. But I would offer you half the money for 20%.
You still got an offer.
It's an extraordinary
which is pretty
twist.
amazing.
Peter Jones has stepped in and offered Levi half of the £50,000 he needs, but he's demanding the whole 20% equity stake in return. Under the rules of the Den, Levi must secure all the money he's asking for, or he leaves empty-handed.
I was about to make an
Any
offer.
other pitch
I said,
and
there is
it's
something
not
here,
working.
and I thought I'd really love to work with him. So I was sort of in the middle of putting my thoughts together, and Peter jumped in, and I think he saw what I was thinking.
I like impossible challenges.
Good.
And it is a complete punt, but I kind of probably would enjoy it. But I would offer you half the money for 20%.
I was panicking now, thinking that maybe I've blown this thing. So to hear Peter saying that, he likes taking chances was like, ringing a bell and saying that, hey, I may still have a chance yet.
If someone else delivered this pitch on his behalf, let's say he got an assistant or another business partner to deliver this pitch, I am not sure if they would have won if they delivered it the same way. And I think a large part of this success and a large part of why this pitch is amazing is because of who this dude is and the character that he brought to the table. That is what carried it. Is they again, and we heard it from one of the dragons just now, is they want to work with him. They want to invest in him and not just his product, which for the majority of Dragon's Den and Shark Tank stuff, it's normally the product and the revenue and the potential of making money that they go after. So again, just how important it is to be authentic and to tell an authentic story when you do speak.
Is that
to
an
people.
Interesting offer to you? I mean, it just...
Well, it's the only one. It's the only one so far. It's going to be interesting if it's the only one so far.
we're talking about 25,000 for 20%. So no, I think that's a fair. That's not a. It is a gamble. It is a punt. I'd match that 25,000 for another 20%. So you'd be talking 50,000 for 40%.
This is an offer coming from the same dragon that told him, listen, mate, it's not 2.5 million litres and it's not 16 million worth of revenue. The same judge, the same dragon has made him an offer. And it just goes to show how important, again, like I keep harping on this, and maybe that's the big takeaway from this pitch is authenticity, and the way you present yourself is ultimately gonna decide how people feel about you when you do speak and when you do apply a good formula and present information properly. So yeah.
Levi now had 2 dragons interested, but they were asking for nearly half his business.
I knew that I was going to have to give away much more than I had gone there to do. and having to make a decision whether or not it's the
40%
greatest
of a
thing to
business
have a smaller percentage of a business that's going somewhere, or to have everything of a business that's not going anywhere. And that's quite an easy decision for me. I would accept it gladly.
There we go.
Put some music in your sauce today. Give me some reggae sauce.
The greatest pitch I've ever
Levi-
seen in Dragon's Den history. Had a really, really strong reason to care. He walked out playing a song that explained who he was, what he's selling, what the product is, in an ultra entertaining way. A lot of his information was internalized, not just memorized, internalized really well. And that's what made him a really, really good speaker. Another question I always get asked is, how do I sound more natural when I speak? And this is a really good example of how to be more natural in front of people. When we pitch, when we present, when we deliver content to a camera, oftentimes, and we have to admit this, that show day or the big day that we deliver the thing is the first time that it's being delivered in in full. But the issue is, if you think about it, he's played this song how many times before this pitch? He's sang the lyrics how many times? He's done the performance how many times? So this is probably his 20th, 30th, 40th time playing the song. So he's essentially just falling back on his experience. And that's what makes you natural, is if you take all these smaller opportunities to deliver your talk in your internal meetings, in client demos. We all have these opportunities in our day-to-day life to practice in public. What I like to call it is, actually, there's a mosquito here that just won't leave me alone, is to practice. Dry runs don't count because it's a dry run, and we should be delivering the final product multiple times before we deliver it on the day. And that's what makes you natural, because you're just tapping into something you've already done 15, 25, 35 times. And that's the difference. That's really the key, is just repetition. Repetitions makes you more fluid. It makes you comfortable with that kind of a thing. So if you want to be natural, make sure that you're doing the thing more and more and more to keep using and flexing those muscles to make it feel natural. So that's the biggest takeaway. Again, one of the greatest pitches I've ever seen.